Hey everybody, John Ploskina here, and I haven't been slacking because of the holidays. In fact, far from it. I've got a really big project that I've been working on, actually since before the election, that I'm finally starting to finish up. I ended up reshooting big portions of it with the new camera for obvious reasons. So really looking forward to that, but in the meantime, there's too much interesting and creepy stuff happening in the news, so I didn't want to leave you hanging. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Obama apparently has been throwing a temper tantrum. The administration imposed sanctions on several Russian entities and expelled 35 Russian diplomats from the United States, while shutting down 2 estates, one in Maryland and one in New York, that were allegedly being used in Russian intelligence operations. Now, this is apparently part of the left's ongoing fantasy that the reason why Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 election was due to Russian hacking and Russian interfering with the election. So Putin actually declined to retaliate against the United States. Rather than expelling American diplomats, he released a statement on the Kremlin's official website and said, "We regard the recent unfriendly steps taken by the outgoing U.S. administration as provocative and aimed at further weakening the Russia-U.S. relationship. This runs contrary to the fundamental interests of both the Russian and American people. Considering the global security responsibilities of Russia and the United States, this is also damaging to international relations as a whole. Although we have the right to retaliate, we will not resort to irresponsible kitchen diplomacy, but will plan our further steps to restore Russian-U.S. relations based on the policies of the Trump administration." Well, there you go. Woo, lads. Barack Obama, blown the fuck out. It's regrettable that the Obama administration is ending its term in this manner. Now, Russian officials did say that they would provide a government plane for officials who were having a hard time finding a flight back to Russia on such short notice. So the saber rattling against Russia really is just the tip of the iceberg. Obama seems to be trying to hinder the Trump administration in every conceivable way before he leaves power. He's allowed the UN Security Council to condemn Israel with their settlements. He has permanently banned oil and gas drilling in large swaths of the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. He's closed off 1.6 million acres of Western land to development, and he has closed the last vestiges of a registration system that was being used to track Muslim immigrants that may also have proved useful to Donald Trump, the new incoming administration. So it's tempting to say that all this is just sour grapes on the Obama administration's part. I certainly hope so. And it does certainly seem that what has been happening with Russia makes Obama look incredibly incompetent and feckless as he is on his way out. Russia even took a moment, apparently through an official diplomatic Twitter channel, to call him a lame duck and post a funny image meme about it. But when you consider this information in context, it actually is kind of troubling. For example, Obama signed a Defense Department appropriations bill, which randomly happened to have an obscure other piece of legislation kind of hidden away, tucked inside. Now, this bill creates a new agency under the State Department that will recognize, understand, expose, and counter foreign state and non-state propaganda and disinfo efforts, which on the surface seems fair enough. But if everything goes according to plan, the first head of this department is going to be appointed by Donald Trump as part of the new administration. So what's the point? Well, consider that this saber rattling against Russia and the continued insistence that Russian hacking had some kind of effect on the election, in spite of the fact that there's no evidence for this whatsoever. And Julian Assange has repeatedly, specifically said that his sources weren't from the Russian government. Now, during the campaign, Hillary Clinton said that incidents of hacking should be treated like any other attack on American interests and could result in a military response. So we've seen how the establishment has a tendency to use its press connections and its hold over the press to create media narratives. And the most obvious example was this slow, carefully orchestrated release of information that led up to the release of the leaked tape of Donald Trump saying impolite things. First, we just had rumors that Donald Trump had been involved in some things that could be called sexual harassment, and then we had the first couple of accusations come out. Everybody seemed to ignore when those accusations proved to be false, or at least very questionable. And all of it was ultimately leading up to the release of that tape. That was sort of the punchline. That was what that narrative was building up to. And so we know that these political campaigns run by the establishment have a tendency to bring in people like Robert Cialdini, These people that Scott Adams called master persuaders to help to build up these narratives, to help create stories that will convince people to hold a certain point of view. It will convince people that certain things are happening. So is Obama just hurling spitballs at Trump here, or is he laying out a narrative that ultimately is going to provide some justification for him refusing to turn power over to the new administration? Now, I know that that sounds really far-fetched. I know that that starts to trigger your normalcy bias. It happens to me too. But think of all the crazy crap that already happened this year. A couple of years ago, could you have even imagined that we would be anxiously awaiting for President-elect Donald Trump to take office leading into 2017? I certainly wouldn't have. So the United States isn't magically immune to history. Weird things happen all the time. What we're dealing with now, the collapse of, in my previous video, what I called the crapitalist form of government, this new system of government that is formed around the establishment of the United States. My next video actually is going to go more into depth about that. But when governments go out of power, that's typically when you see trouble. Politicians will do desperate, horrible things to hang on to power because, as I've discussed in previous videos, they're drug addicts. They're essentially drug addicts. They're behavioral addicts who are addicted to the idea of having power over other people, addicted to moving up in a social hierarchy. So this doesn't necessarily mean that Obama is going to start a war with Russia, but putting anything like this in the news potentially hurts Trump because it causes people to question the legitimacy of his power. And also, it bothers me that these recent events make Obama look stupid, because he is definitely not stupid. He is an extraordinarily crafty politician. So as far as I'm concerned, all bets are off. We need to keep an eye on these people. We need to keep an eye on all of this stuff, even when it seems really far-fetched and weird and crazy. So that's all I got for now for this video. But it's a harsh world out there, my friends, so please keep thinking. Bye-bye.